Unsurprisingly, Joe Biden says he will not comply with potential Senate impeachment trial subpoena, and he has no grounds to refuse. Trump did have grounds to refuse subpoenas to his staff, and Joe Biden doesn't. And once again, we can see the glorious double standard from the Democrats. Yes, I know it tends to be the case, but let me try and explain this in a way that makes sense. First of all, by all means, go ahead and call me biased. That's fine. Here's the thing. When the Democrats subpoenaed Trump's staff, he cited executive privilege. It's a legitimate thing. It states that he has a right to withhold information within the executive branch if he deems as such. So he didn't want people testifying. Well, maybe Trump was wrong on that and they should have testified. Well, the House Democrats have a solution. It's called going to the Supreme Court. It's called checks and balances. Trump has a legitimate claim of executive privilege. They're equal in, opposing branches of the government. And then, well, not necessarily opposing, but, checks and balances. And then the House can say, Supreme Court, how do you find? And if they were in the right and Trump still refused, then you can impeach him for obstruction of SCOTUS. They didn't do that. They claimed Trump was obstructing. Well, now Joe Biden, with no legal grounds, is claiming he will deny and refuse the subpoenas. Where is the media outrage that Joe Biden is obstructing or announcing his intent? Okay, I know we're not there yet, but he's announcing his intent to obstruct the Senate. Yeah, nobody cares. Because here's what happens with Joe Biden. Joe Biden has some crazy scheme with this kid over in Ukraine. I don't know what they were doing. All I know is it sounds fishy. Hunter Biden is on the board of a gas company he has no business being on the board of, getting paid between $50,000 and $83,000 a month. Some people in Ukraine have alleged in sworn statements that Joe Biden was actually on the take as well, but it's all accusation. It's accusation from a country that apparently was, to some capacity, some people meddling in our election, trying to interfere. So do I trust them? Of course not. I don't trust them. But think about what Joe Biden did. It is accused, or he was accused that he intervened in the Burisma, the prosecutor, getting him fired because the prosecutor was investigating Burisma and it could have, blown back on his son. We don't really have any proof for the most part. It's true. We do have circumstantial evidence to suggest potential probable cause. But I think we got to be careful because we are dealing with international relations and of course they want to smear Joe Biden. What is Donald Trump accused of? A quid pro quo to investigate Joe Biden? Look, man, on the surface, we can say they're literally the same things. But for some reason, the left and the media act like Joe Biden can do these things and it's no big deal. I'll tell you what. If it comes to a Senate trial and Joe Biden refuses a subpoena, he will be in contempt of the Senate. I guess it's contempt of Congress. It's still the same thing. And then he should probably be, compelled to come in. It's not the same thing as executive privilege claims. He is just going to be a private citizen at that point. Do I think Joe Biden should be called in? Personally, I do. If Joe Biden has nothing to hide, then he should testify, right? Now, I don't really mean that. Joe Biden's innocent until proven guilty. But if they want to claim that if we've got a conflict between whether Trump was in the right to call for an investigation and Joe Biden did nothing wrong, well, then I think we should clear things up. How does that sound? Let's read the story. Daily Caller reports, and boy, do I have a good one. I got another one for you. Former Vice President Joe Biden told reporters again that he would not comply if the Senate issues a subpoena to testify in the impeachment trial of President Donald Trump. Speaking to the Des Moines Register editorial board on Friday, the Democratic presidential frontrunner doubled down after being asked about a similar contention he made to NPR early December. Do you stand by your earlier statements that you wouldn't comply if you were subpoenaed to testify in an impeachment trial before the Senate? Correct. And this is so good. You're going to love this one. Correct. And the reason I wouldn't is because it's all designed to deal with Trump doing what he's done his whole life. Trying to take the focus off of him. What? No! When I read that, I yelled, I pounded on the table. Lies. Donald Trump trying to take the focus off himself? Please, dude. That is the worst attempt at deflecting I have ever seen in my life. No one, not the staunchest Trump supporter to the staunchest Trump opponent, would ever try to claim Trump doesn't want attention or wants to shift focus away from him. The man literally puts his name in gigantic 2-story tall letters on the tops of buildings around the world. It's the opposite. Trump is desperately trying to do everything in his power to make everything about him. And if you would try to claim otherwise, I would say you are desperate. You must truly be desperate to try and claim Donald Trump does this, he's always done this. He's trying to take the focus off himself. This is the most insane argument ever made. Not only is he claiming that right now, that Trump would subpoena him to get the focus off himself, he's also claiming Trump's done that his whole life. Are you nuts? Now, how many buildings have Trump's name on it? How many brands have his name on it? How many companies has he made where he literally stamps his name on every company? I've got a couple companies. Guess how many are called Tim Pool? Okay, I have two, and one of them is called Timcast. The point is, most people, when they have multiple companies, they think of brand names. What does Trump do? Trump this, Trump that, Trump this, Trump water, Trump steaks, Trump magazine, Trump hotel, Trump international. And you think, you know what, man, Joe? You got nothing coming. Look what he says. Biden said, calling any suggestions that he do so a diversion from Trump. Oh, please. Trump couldn't tweet. Trump couldn't shut his mouth to save his own life. This is the funniest thing about the president. People say, like, if aliens were real, we'd know about it, because you know Trump wouldn't keep his mouth shut. The Intercept called Trump the most dishonest but simultaneously honest president in American history. Trump, he was talking about something going on with like the Yemen and Saudi Arabia. And they said, why should we be, or no, I think it was the Khashoggi thing. Like, why shouldn't we be going after them? And he was like, well, hold on a minute. Saudi Arabia is doing this big weapons deal with us. We don't want to lose that. China wanted it. Russia wanted it. We got it. We're getting that money. It's great. When asked, why we were supporting Saudi Arabia, somebody in the White House said, because they pay cash. Yeah, the Trump administration is not about diversions. I mean, somewhat. Trump seems to lie about like the stupidest things, he said at a rally that we're building a border wall around Colorado. He clearly misspoke, and all he had to do was say, I misspoke. He tweeted Kafifi, and he could have just said it was a typo, and instead he said, some people will figure out what it means. What is it? Dude, but when it comes to like foreign policy, he's like, well, I mean, they're giving us billions of dollars. So look, I get it, man. Sometimes Trump deflects, of course he does. Sometimes he changes the subject and he dangles keys in front of the media. I get that. But it's never been about taking the heat off of him. When Trump tweeted that stuff about the squad going back to their countries, it was putting more attention on himself. During the Yovanovitch testimony, Trump tweeted about her putting more attention on himself. Joe Biden's excuse is that Trump wants to take the focus off of him. You know what, man? You've triggered me. I am triggered. Okay, I have never been more triggered in my life. Lies. I'd be willing to hear many arguments about why you wouldn't want to testify, but not this one. Because I don't think any sane human being would ever believe Trump wants less attention. Sorry. Doesn't that position you as if you're defying a subpoena, putting yourself above the law? Biden says, well, look, the grounds for them to call me would be overwhelmingly specious. Does that matter? No. If they file a subpoena, then you challenge it or otherwise. So I don't anticipate that happening anyway. But what would it do if I voluntarily just said, let me go and make my case? What are you going to cover? You guys are going to cover for 3 weeks anything that I said, and he's going to get away. You guys buy into it all the time. Not a joke. Doesn't mean I shouldn't testify if you thought I should. But think what it's about. It's all about what he does all the time, his entire career. Take the focus off. The guy violated the Constitution. He said it in the driveway of the White House. He's acknowledged he asked for help. Oh, please, Joe Biden. Trump can't help himself. Take the focus off. Get out of here, dude. There's the door. That is the most blatant lie. Okay, the reality is Joe Biden is deflecting off of him potentially being subpoenaed because of what his kid did. Remember when that guy at the town hall said, what about you peddling influence? And Joe Biden said, you're a liar. You're a liar. Oh, and he got all angry, got all triggered and mad. Yeah, Joe Biden's trying to take the focus off of him because the reality is Trump didn't ask for help with the election. He asked for help investigating the crony BS happening from Biden and his kid. I'll tell you what my opinion is. Look, you want to argue that Trump was seeking help in the 2020 election? Trump never said anything about the election. No one ever testified Trump was worried about losing to Biden. Not one person in impeachment said, Donald Trump said, I'm scared of losing to Biden. Not one person even asked about it. So if you want to jump to conclusions and claim that Trump is worried about losing in 2020, by all means, go ahead and do it, but you've got not even an attempt to prove it. Now, when it comes to Hunter Biden, you've got widespread conservative concern about what Hunter was doing and why he was getting paid for it, and Joe Biden coming and bragging about getting the prosecutor fired. I'm not saying it's true. I'm saying Trump's base was fired up. At the very least, you could argue Trump's base was fired up, so Trump said, oh, I'll ask about it. Trump isn't trying to get the heat off him. Trump published the transcript. I tell you what, man, it is insane to me that you would ever try to make that argument. They say, well, the Democratic-led House of Reps passed 2 articles of impeachment against the president. They have yet to send them over to the Republican-led Senate for trial. When and if they do, Republicans have raised the possibility of interviewing witnesses previously denied by House Democratic leadership, such as Biden and his son Hunter. Well, I'll tell you what. So far now it seems like they won't do that. Lindsey Graham said he won't do that, and I hate to say it, it's the right thing to do. Look, people get mad that I'm not constantly mocking, Marco Rubio or Lindsey Graham. I said before Lindsey Graham announced he wasn't going to subpoena or didn't want to, they shouldn't do it. It was wrong for them to subpoena the phone records, and a tit for tat is not the right way to go. And then sure enough, Lindsey Graham comes out and says, I'm not playing this game. And I said, you're going to lose because of this. You will lose if you don't engage in these tactics. And the Republicans were like, we're not going to do it. And so I'll give them credit. I'm critical of Mitch McConnell's political strategies, holding up, Merrick Garland and holding up all these bills passed by the House. But it's a political argument. It's political gamesmanship. It's annoying crap. I hate from all of them. And I tweeted, get rid of everybody. I don't care if it's Graham, McConnell, Rubio, Cruz. I don't care. I don't care if it's Schumer, Pelosi, AOC, whatever. I'm just so sick of all of these people in Congress across the board. But I'll tell you this right now. The impeachment, no statutory crimes, no attempt at alleviating, the executive privilege claimed by Trump. And then we get this nonsense. It's duplicitous, it's deceitful, and I cannot believe, Joe, you would ever try to claim Trump wants less attention. Oh, please, dude. The guy's got his name stamped on buildings across the world. The dude is desperate for attention. How can the left simultaneously say that Trump is a narcissist who has daddy issues and wants to make sure everybody loves him and knows his name, and then have this guy go on TV or go on the internet and say, well, Trump's doing what he's always done. Try to make sure no one's talking about him. I love it. Yeah, okay. Stick around. I got another segment coming up in a few minutes, and I'll see you all shortly.